Hello, everyone. We're back with a second episode of the Not So Alpha Males podcast with me, Toby.
And me, Tom.
How you doing, Tom? So you got a cocktail there for the second week. What have you got?
Well, I've tried to make a mojito, and I think one of the ingredients is out of date. I don't know which one. So it's kind of inconsumable, really. So I've got a beer as backup. So we'll see how it goes. What about you?
I'm in the same predicament as you, as I tried to make a porn star martini.
Oh, right.
And can I say this is quite an expensive habit we've got ourselves into this? Because
to be honest, we need to start making these well. Like if we do this every week and we both come with bad drinks, then we need to learn how to make.
I had to buy a bottle of Prosecco, which is not cheap, like £9 for a shit bottle of Prosecco.
You're really showing off where your wealth bracket is right now, by the way. It's kind of personal information.
Yeah, we've got a bottle of vodka, a bottle of, what's the passion fruit liqueur? Can't remember what it's called now. Anyway, a bottle of that.
Passion fruit liqueur, okay.
Passoa. Anyway,
okay, yeah.
Got ID'd for that, didn't have my ID. So I had to go back and get another ID.
You had a terrible day.
It's been tragic. And the cocktail I made was horrible. So
to be fair, you do look 14, so I actually hats off to the guy behind the till.
Yeah. It looks nice.
No,
I put it in a nice glass,
it does look pretty good. I wish we would do video because, people would be looking at that as if it's a very good cocktail. But
if the fans choose to go to our Instagram page, you'll be able to see all our cocktails on there.
Should we do that? Should we set that up?
So should do that.
Are you saying that just for the podcast right now, or are you saying we should actually do that? Because I'm down to actually do that.
We should so actually do that. Because it'll
be funny.
This is a long enough intro.
No, cue the music, man. Cue the music.
So today, Tom, I've got a really interesting topic for you, and it's on planting trees.
Okay.
Yeah, at least I haven't brought a book to the table, so hopefully it will keep the listeners going.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
right, I see where it's going. There's not going to be an episode 3, ladies and gentlemen.
No, not with us anyway.
I don't know if there's going to be an episode 2 so far.
Well, all right. The way you interrupted me last time.
Tell me about trees. Tell me about trees.
Yeah, okay, I will do. So is planting trees as good as we think it is? Or is it just a way to get us, to buy things and think we're being good when actually it's not actually as good as we think?
Are you on about when you give money to charities and they plant trees for you? If that's actually good or not?
I'll get into it in a bit later, but there's cases where companies say, oh, buy this and we'll plant a tree. And it's is that actually a good thing? So I don't know about you, but for the last 5 years, there's been a lot of push for planting trees. I've seen it in the news quite a bit. So the UK government in the next 3 years are planning to plant 1 million trees.
Really?
Sounds like a lot, doesn't it? Sounds like a lot.
Yeah, but actually now I'm thinking about it out loud a bit more. It's probably not a lot, is it really? Probably a tiny amount.
So in 2016, one Indian state apparently planted 50 million trees in one day. One day.
Well, yeah, to be fair, I think Mr. Beast did 22 million or something ridiculous, on one of his videos. Do you not YouTube?
No, we'll cut this bit.
Oh, we can't cut this bit. How do you not know who Mr. Beast is?
I don't.
Anyway, yeah.
So, 50 million trees in one day. Pretty mad, right? But in 2019, Ethiopia claimed to have planted 350 million trees in one day.
That seems a bit impossible. I don't know if I do, but 350 million in a day.
Yeah, look it up. 350 million in a day, and it was a nationwide effort. So I think they tried to get every single person to plant a tree.
That's actually amazing. Fair play.
Yeah, but again, might not necessarily be a good thing. I'll get into it a bit more detail. Yeah. So why is there a big push for planting trees? Simple answer is global warming, climate change. So as trees grow, they take the carbon dioxide from the air, give out oxygen, the whole cycle. And they store that carbon in the roots and the branches and things. So all that carbon gets stored. So the idea is that you plant loads of them, take out all the carbon and then store it, and then all is good, right? But
it feels like it's going to be like a thriller movie or something, some murder mystery kind of shit.
But the problem is we're still cutting down shitloads of trees, for one. So last 50 years, we've almost cut 20% of the Amazon's rainforest, which is the lungs of the earth and all that. 20% in 50 years. You think like on the scale of what the timescales of the earth, 50 years we've cut almost a fifth of the Amazon rainforest down.
No, we're terrible, really, aren't we?
Yeah, we're just terrible.
We
species,
shouldn't be on
really.
this planet.
And since the start of human civilization, the estimated number of trees around the world has fallen almost by half. They estimate. I know that's obviously not going to be exactly right, but we've cut down almost half the trees on the planet.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you see the David Attenborough, not the latest thing he had out, but the one before, which is like My Life, where he had like the stuff that happened over just the time that he was alive and looking at all this stuff?
Oh yeah, it was really sad.
And like it was so.
I hated being alive.
When it had like the percentage thing, it like rolled forward 20 years in his life, and then you saw it roll down. It was like 60% gone. I was like, shit.
It's depressing, isn't it? I was like almost
so bad.
Tears.
It's so bad. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole thing is that we're planting shitloads of trees because we got rid of so many in the first place. But it's not as simple as just planting all these trees and it's going to make the same difference that it had before. And, you know, there's this massive push for companies and governments, and they're like kind of doing it for a PR kind of stunt in a way.
I can see, yeah, it's like a corporate social responsibility gimmick.
But the scientists are saying that the way they're doing it at the moment, it's not going to have the effects of the carbon capture that they plan for. So this is one that I found, which I'm sure relates to you because you use this a lot. So private companies such as Pornhub, they had...
I was like, where's this going to go? Oh, it went there. Right. Yeah, cool.
They had a scheme, right? This is in America, where for every 100 views...
Are you laughing like a little kid talking about porn right now?
Because I've got a little picture of their advert, okay? So they put in words, donating one tree for every 100 videos viewed in our big dick category. So I'm sure you probably planted about 2,000 of them in that sentence.
Oh yeah, nice one. Great joke. That was great joke.
And yes, they planted thousands of these trees for the sake of getting all these videos watched for all their adverts, and they make money from it.
Yeah, but isn't that kind of like they get money and they plant trees? Like it's not really any downside to it.
Yeah, but the way they plant the trees is the problem. So it's not like it's a bad thing. It's not going to be damaging. Well, it can be damaging actually to plant trees, but it's just not going to have the effect that they're saying. So it's kind of making us feel a lot better, even though it's not going to have that positive effect.
Why is it not going to have the positive effect then that we all think it will?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Tom. What happens is that they plant them in these monoculture plantations. So they basically plant a single species. I'm going to cut that. A single species of tree over thousands of hectares, right? So you just get one tree, just plant shitloads of them. And so the eucalyptus tree, for example, they grow really quickly. So they're like, okay, brilliant. We'll plant loads of these. We get loads of big trees. But then they harvest them every 10 years. And then all that carbon's then just released because like you get short-term products like paper and things like that, which when they're burned or when they decompose, they release all that carbon back in the atmosphere. And according to some studies, that the amount of carbon they capture is about 1/40th of a natural forest doing the same thing over the same area for the amount of time.
So is that because of this biodiversity problem then? Because I am sure there's got to be the charities who are doing it properly surely have scientists and biologists actually coming at it from this angle, because like isn't this just a problem where it's like a company that has no idea about trees, like Pornhub is like, let's plant some trees, and then it's just it's like me and you planting trees, we don't know how to make a forest properly. But surely some people out there do.
It's a lot cheaper to say, okay, like say for example Pornhub, they only care about their PR really, so they're going to plant these thousands of trees. It's much cheaper to plant 1,000 of these eucalyptus trees, which are going to then grow quickly and then can be used for other things, than just letting a natural forest grow, because you're not going to make any money out of it. It all comes down to money at the end of the day. But there's also the governments. So Republic of Ireland, I think to meet their carbon dioxide reduction goals, they were supposed to reduce their carbon dioxide by 20% by 2005. But the actual rate that they reduced it by was 5%. But because they've planted shitloads of these monoculture trees, they can then use it as a credit in the EU, so they don't get any penalties for not reaching them targets. So the government's planted loads of these conifer trees in Ireland. But the problem with that is that the conifers, they're like Christmas trees. They cut out loads of light. So they actually end up killing everything on the like underneath them. It ruins the biodiversity of it.
Right, gotcha.
And you don't get as much like wildlife living there like a normal forest would. But because they're the maximum yield, if you plant loads of them, because they're in a small space, you know, Ireland, look, their potential carbon storage is actually higher. So then they don't get any penalties for not reaching them targets. So again, it's like a PR
good then?
kind of thing.
Like, yeah, but it's not like they're chopping down a forest to then put a crappy forest on top, to put one of these monocultural forests on top. Like, is it just like a field, like a random fields and like just grasslands that they plant all this stuff on? In which case it should be better.
For Ireland, I think they had the lowest amount of trees in anywhere in Europe. I think they had 1% tree coverage. They've knocked that up to like 10%. Right. I'm not sure what they plant these trees on, but it's more that it's the excuse that they use to not then cut other carbon emissions. So they're still polluting because they can say that have planted loads of trees, it's fine.
Does it not actually work out better then overall? Like, does it not actually help CO2 parts per million in the atmosphere? Well, and like, because obviously they don't just get rid of the carbon dioxide, they then produce the oxygen as well. So
yeah, but there's all the negative effects, like the biodiversity, which then stops any natural other things growing, which, as I said before, you could store 40 times more in a natural forest than one of these plantations. So if you actually turn it into a natural forest, your benefit will be so much more, and you're not really doing as well as you say you are. And then I thought, you know, what about disease? Like trees get diseases, and say if you get one in that one species and it spreads that whole forest, you've got to cut that whole thing down.
It's just right. Okay.
And there's another thing, because they want maximum yield, they often apply fertilizers, which then releases nitrous oxide, which is greenhouse gas. So then you're basically just making the problem worse anyway. I thought it was quite interesting.
Yeah, no, is this kind of first world problems, like developed nations having this problem more?
So it depends on the location of where the forest is being planted as well, which I'll go into in a minute. But there's Ethiopia. There was a charity there, and they were doing natural foresting. So they would like plant a bunch of different tree types, and they would give these women money and benefits and things. It was like a charity to plant these different natural trees, which would actually make a difference. And there was one case in the UK where a lady had this whole bit of land, 1,400 hectares. I don't know how she had that much land, because that's a lot of land for the UK.
1,400.
She must have inherited it or something, but she's basically left it just to be the wild. So she's called it wilding, and her name is Isabella Tree. How coincidental!
Oh, that's very apt.
Yeah,
very apt.
And they just left the trees to grow and everything, let nature play its course. And they reckon that it's double the carbon capture in the soil over 20 years, and like the shrubs, the grasses and things like that.
Essentially, we need to think more about how we actually plant these trees. Like, I still can't see why it's a bad thing to plant trees in the first place. Like,
it's not. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
We just need to.
I'm just saying
need to go about it a bit more scientifically.
Yeah, like you can't just plant 1 million trees and just be like, oh, that's the problem solved. Doesn't work like that. And at the moment, that's what companies and governments are doing. But also, to go on the negative side of things, it depends what...
Oh, because you haven't gone so far.
It depends where on earth that you plant these trees. So this is from my research. I thought it was quite interesting. There's 3 different types of forests on the planet. Did you know this?
I didn't know. No, all new.
So you get the Boreal Forests, which are in the north. So you get like Russia, Canada, Scandinavia, Alaska, quite high up on the globe. And this is like really cold areas where you get snow and things like that. It's actually really rich in carbon as well. They store a lot of carbon, these trees. And then you have the Temperate Forest, which is like where the UK is. You get a lot of diversity and loads of sporadic growing and things like that. And then you have the tropical forests, which grow along the equator and things like that.
The coolest ones.
Yeah, everyone likes tropical ones. But in the tropics, the trees go really fast because there's a lot of sunlight and a lot of water.
Right.
So it's like perfect conditions for these trees to grow. So they grow rapidly. And if you plant trees there, it's a big word, evapotranspiration of the water. So it's like how water just turns into mist.
Yeah.
That goes up in the atmosphere and actually cools the area down. And then, and that cooling then that makes clouds, and then it reflects the sunlight, all these clouds. So then you get less warming.
It works basically, yeah. It's good. Okay.
But if you go up to the north, where you have the Boreal Forest, you get all this snow, which then kind of acts like the clouds. It reflects all the sunlight away, and you get less heat being trapped there. But the thought then is, if you plant loads of these trees there, trees are dark and they absorb a lot of, or they stop a lot of the sunlight escaping. So they actually found that if you plant loads of trees in the north areas, you actually get heating. So you'd be warming up the area, not cooling it down.
So what, these trees can almost act like actual little, what's the word? Greenhouse.
Kind of, yeah. Kind of like greenhouse. Yeah. So like they trap the light and it warms up. And in the actual temperate areas, you don't really get that much of an effect at all in terms of actual like temperature wise. So there's a lot about the actual location of where you plant these as well.
So like Ethiopia's doing a brilliant job then planting down there, but we don't want Russia planting trees.
Not really, no. To be honest.
Well, it's good news for them then, isn't it?
But there's so many questions that are unanswered about it. So like how the climate changes, we don't know how it's going to affect how trees behave and how they grow and things like that. There's still a lot of question marks related to it. So is it wise to plant all these trees in places where they might not have been naturally, and it might actually have a worse effect than a positive one? So like they can actually cause like droughts and water scarcity because they suck up all the water. That's what a study in China found. But then on the other hand, in some places, it can actually change the weather pattern of the whole area, so you get more rain. So it's so complex.
Yeah. I can imagine when you're doing anything on such a large scale, such as 1 million trees, you really need to be like, it obviously is going to affect the natural climate or the pre-existing climate conditions, because 1 million trees anywhere is going to have some effect. A million of anything is going to have some effect. So again, it's just coming down to this idea that we need to think about it more before we just go and all plant a tree. Yeah, it still can be done in the right way. I'm really voting for the trees here. Okay, cool. I'm just really backing
no, I'm
the
not
trees.
Saying you shouldn't plant
I feel
trees.
like you're tearing them down, to be honest.
I'm not saying you shouldn't plant trees. I just think, from what I've researched,
you just think global warming's a myth. I get it.
It's not real.
You're wrong, but
there was this cool thing that I watched, and it was this guy in New Zealand. You know how I love New Zealand.
Shout out to all our New Zealand listeners.
So there was this guy, and he was a conservationist, and he had all this land, and his job was basically to look after it and try and make it what it was before, because in the like 1800s they turned it into like all farmland when the Europeans came, and it just ruined the whole environment, and they wanted to try and get it back to what it was before. And there was a thing with a thing called gorse, and it's like this yellowy kind of weed, and it grows like everywhere, and like all the farmers hate it over there, and they say to the guy like, what are you doing, why are you letting it grow? He was like, no, let the environment do its thing. And there were some trees that like to grow in the shade initially. So seeds developed underneath the shade of these weeds, and then as they grew and grew and grew, they then breached through these weeds, and then they'd actually then start shading the weeds, and the weeds needed the sunshine, and it would kill the weeds, and then you'd have a tree there. I thought it was quite interesting because the amount of stuff that, again, goes back to what we don't know. If he just cut down the weeds and tried to fight it, he might have been it might have made the whole thing so much worse.
Yeah, no, the whole interconnectivity of plants and it is crazy that somehow it all works, and then we've come across and we kind of fucked the system up a bit. But it's amazing, however, like how it's just evolved to work so well, and like as everyone says, like this balance.
Yeah, I think it's just we're quite ignorant to think that we can do these things and have a massive impact when actually nature probably does it right. And if we leave these areas to actually grow naturally, it's going to be so much better for it. That's not to say don't plant trees. It's just the perception that planting trees is going to get us out of the problem of climate change isn't true. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. I don't know about you. I'm hoping the listeners did as well.
I'm joking. No, it was very interesting. I definitely didn't know anything about this different types of forests and the effects the different ones can have. I thought that's quite good.
You know about the Pornhub thing there, didn't you? Because I think you were.
I contributed about 5 trees. So I feel like I've done my part for the planet now.
Anyway, I think that's enough for me. I'm going to move over to you, Tom.
This is what the listeners have come for. Hold on to your
hats. Is it better than a book? Because
it's better than a book. It's 2 books.
Oh,
no,
great.
I'm joking. It's no books. No, actually, I have brought 2 things though, because I'm going to do 2 things quite quickly in a sense. I had my original one planned, which for a little teaser before we get into it is about lost civilizations. But then I thought over the last 2 weeks, we have spoke about this off podcast, so I know you know about it, but the Gamestop debacle. And I've just loved following it, and I don't know if everyone else has been. I mean, I think it has it has been in the news quite a bit, but I thought we'll keep up with current events on here. You know, we'll every now and then we'll throw in some news stories and things like that. Yeah. So this GameStop thing, GameStop is essentially the American version of our game over here, and
it's a dying business, though, right?
Yeah, that's I was gonna get into that. Yeah.
Okay.
So over the past 10 years, GameStop and game in the UK, I assume as well, has been declining slowly. You know, because obviously now loads of people just buy their games directly online, digital versions, and everything like that. So to give you some background into the company GameStop, and so when we get into more of the figures and the stocks later on, in 2002, the company became public, and they came out at roughly $10 a share, and that rose to about $60 in 2008. Then the financial crash happened, obviously went down the pot, and then slowly it crept back up to like a similar kind of level by about 2014. But then since then, it's just been slowly declining up until about a month ago now. And so when you've got these companies on a decline like this, and you know the company itself isn't turning profits, they're closing down stores, like GameStop shut so many stores in America over the last couple of years, layoffs, things like that. Hedge funds and Wall Street and all those big guys, they then take out a shorting position on the stocks. And
so Tom, what's the shorting position?
Okay, that sounded really fake, because actually I actually re-looked up it to double check the definition and what it actually meant, and I actually didn't know. Like, I had the wrong idea. So if you're like me, and I don't know anything about the stock market, so I hope I'm not gonna ruin the story, because I know one of our listeners is in finance. Shout out to you. So shorting is when you borrow a share so you then have to pay the original owner interest, and then you sell that share immediately on to someone else. And what you're hoping for is then that share decreases, the price of the share decreases. You can then buy it back at the lower price and then give that back to the original owner and pocket the difference between the higher price you paid and the lower price you bought it back for, as well as paying off the interest. So essentially, you're betting on something losing its value. And, when companies are going towards the end of their life, this is obviously quite a sure thing. If a company's going to go bust in a few years, you might as well short that company.
I think it would be good to add as well, if you short, you have unlimited liability. I don't know if you're going to say that.
I was going to go into that a little bit, because I looked at that as well. So obviously how it works is if when you buy a stock and you hope it goes up, obviously you then sell it when it goes up and you've got that new amount of money. It's great. Hallelujah. And if that stock, unfortunately you bought a stock, it didn't do well and it went down, you then just lost whatever money you put into the stock. But when you short the stock and when you're hoping for the opposite to happen, if that stock then increases, obviously your losses increase as well. Because when you have to buy, because when the borrowing's over, that borrowing period's over, and you have to give them back to the original company, you have to buy the stock at whatever the current value of that is. And if it's rose 100%, 200%, whatever, like this is where the idea comes that the losses for shorting there's no limit to it. Then that stock could increase exponentially for God knows how long, and you've got to buy it back at the ridiculous price and you've lost a whole ton of money. So going back to GameStop, because we went off on a bit of a divergent there. So with the kind of decline of GameStop happening over the last few years, a lot of hedge funds, a lot of the big banks took out these short positions on millions and millions of GameStop stock. God, that's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? That's quite difficult. You know all about mouthfuls. And so, and what happened was, this is where it starts getting absolutely brilliant, and I start loving it, is some, I don't want to say that amateur, but like amateur analysis, okay? People just sort of day trade themselves, recognized that all these hedge funds had positioned themselves with huge amounts of shorts. And so collectively, essentially, there's this Reddit webpage called Wall Street Bets, and essentially they all got together and sort of almost organized themselves to start buying the stock GameStop. And obviously,
there's nothing illegal with that either.
No, there's nothing illegal to it. It's literally like just people shouting on the street saying, "Please buy this stock," and then everyone else is like, "Yeah, okay, I'll buy the stock." So it's not in the same sense as like market manipulation and things like that. But what's amazing is so many people started, just regular average Joes started hopping on this. Well, it became really a trend really to buy GameStop stock. And so, and I've got the figures here. So up until the end of 2020, the highest the stock had ever reached was $60 just before 2008 crash. In August 2020, they were trading at $4 a share. Over the last 2 weeks, the share price reached an all-time high of $483, which is a 12,000% increase, which in terms of like stocks and market, that's like a ridiculous increase. And this all started because of this Reddit page, and like Robinhood traders basically jumped on a bandwagon of like, let's buy the stock. And obviously if more people buy the stock price is going to go up. And then people just kept on buying more and more.
Why do you think people were doing it?
Well, that's half of the funny why I like this story so much, because like you could get, honestly, I advise everyone to like just YouTube it, get a summary, and then look at some of the articles written about it, because all these, they're just average people. They don't have lots of money. They're not the Wall Street funds and things like that. They're not the big hedge funds. They were just putting in kind of some savings they had, $1,000, if that. And all of them were saying things along the lines of like, we don't know what we're doing. This isn't financial advice, but we know it's going to screw with the hedge funds. And they really, really did. Like, I found out that the short sellers, people who had the position of shorting GameStop, lost $19 billion over the course of the last 2 weeks. 19 billion. Like, the number of hedge funds that had to ask for like more money from the treasury and from investors and things like that just to keep them afloat is incredible. And so what you really had was this kind of David v. Goliath kind of situation. And it was just funny because these guys, they knew they weren't going to make money. They were literally just doing it to, I guess, sort of send a political message to these elitists, these Wall Streeters who have just billionaires' monies and they're just trying to make money for them. And they kind of showed them that at the end of the day, you don't need to be a huge international hedge fund to dictate the stock market. If you're just enough average people, you will have that change come. And then obviously, when it started taking off, obviously banks and other places started taking on the other position, because the rich will always make money. They always come out richer. And unfortunately, in this case, I think the poor came out poorer as well. Like, at the end of the day, I think the hedge funds still won. But, the funny thing is they actually did fuck with them for a few weeks. Like, they were hot under the collar. They had that power. And I mean, some of the things that came out of it was brilliant. Like the memes and the trends, like one of them was like, can't stop, won't stop GameStop, which I quite like that one. The biggest one was
name of the episode.
That was the biggest one. The biggest one was we're flying to the moon. GME, the name of the stock, to the moon. There's this whole idea of like we're going to take it to the moon. Like, we're taking this price so high, and it honestly. And
what price is it now?
Funny because it's back. It's burst a bit now. I think it's down to 50 again. And it's
still more than it was, off. But I guess it's...
yeah, but it's basically, I think it's over now. And there are other instances. I know BlackBerry, it happened to them as well. I don't know how that's going on. Nokia.
I guess there's a bigger thing now because all the trading apps that you can get on your phone. It allows the average person to buy stocks now. So then there's going to be, I'm sure there's going to be more cases of this where everyone's like, screw it, let's just put it all on this stock, raise it. Like, now they've kind of, unless they put rules in place for it now.
Well, this is the really interesting thing, and it's really showing the hypocrisy of Wall Street and traders, because they've been on the news now all week going, we need more regulations, when for the past 50 years, all they've ever partied for is less regulations, because obviously with more regulations, it's less easier to make money on the stock market. So it's really bad. And I think it's really showed the position that everything's fine if they're able to make money. But as soon as like average Joes or people who aren't them aren't making money and they're being forced into a corner, they're like, this has got to change. This ain't right. You can't do this, when they're the people doing it for the last 40, 50 years to make money.
I did see, you know, Robin Hood, that app. So when they stopped trading the stock, I saw that loads of people were kicking off because they weren't allowed to participate in screwing over the hedge funds. But what Robin Hood basically said was that they were trying to protect the common person because they knew it was going to burst, and you know, the average Joe was going to lose out money. But it's kind of an excuse because they probably had a lot of pressure from people with a lot of money.
Yeah, that's the big narrative, is that these trading platforms actually don't work they're not meant to be there to make it easy for the average guy to trade stocks. They're actually still in the pocket of hedge funds and the bigger waves. I think it's just amazing that a group of people on Reddit fought back against hedge funds and won, essentially, kind of half won, really. I mean, they didn't win financially overall.
Made them sweat. But that's the main thing.
They made them sweat, and like, you know.
Did you see that thing about it's like celebrities getting on the bandwagon as well and kind of manipulating the whole situation?
Yeah. No, well, two of the bigger names that actually got onto it. One, Jordan Belfort. I mean, do you know who that is? The Wolf of Wall Street guy, the guy that
I have seen the Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh yeah. Okay. Who Leonardo plays in that's Jordan Belfort, and he actually
first name basis with DiCaprio.
I'm best friends. Has that not come up before? No. Anyway, yeah. So he brought out this video, and he essentially did clip himself into a part of the Wolf of Wall Street film. So you know the scene where he's like, "I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving," and he's doing the big speech to all his traders.
So, yeah.
He's essentially recorded himself at a mic stand, giving a really inspirational, motivational speech for every Redditor and Wall Street Bets guy to hold the line, keep it going, and don't sell. And it is really inspirational. So I do actually recommend you go watch it because it is funny as well. And then he's clipped, obviously, the corresponding bits from the actual Wolf of Wall Street film. So it's very funny as well. And then also, who was it? Elon Musk as well. He tweeted out Gamestop at one point, which also was sort of like a rallying cry to the users of the Wall Street Bets Reddit page to keep going, hold the line, all this thing about taking it to the moon and that. And I think at the time he sent it out, it pushed the stock up to $200 at that point. Obviously, in hindsight, it went even further than that in the end. But it's really interesting to see these celebrities and CEOs have so much power over the market. I think that's quite an interesting point.
Why are they so anti-hedge funds, these celebrities?
Well, I mean, Elon, I know, from the history of Tesla, Elon's had a lot of run-ins with the financial markets in short sellers and things like that. I mean, do you remember a few years ago?
Is it the short shorts?
The short shorts. What?
Have you seen that?
No.
What's that? Oh my God. Have you not seen that with Tesla? So, you know how they were the most shorted stock?
Oh, yes. No, sorry. Yeah, the clothing. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was Elon Musk. He basically, for a limited edition, he decided that Tesla should sell the short shorts. So there's these red, they've got sexy on the back. Guess the price of the shorts as well.
Oh, I remember it being ridiculous. It's like 60 quid or more.
No, it was $69 for a sexual reference because it's Elon Musk. 42. So he was making reference to 420.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, because that's the thing I was going to talk about this stock was that few years ago when he tweeted out about going private for 420, and apparently it was a joke because it was the 420 and it was all a bit weird, but then he got slapped with huge fines and Did he lose like his chairman position as well? He lost a lot with that one.
I think he lost. What did he lose? Was it the CEO or?
It was even no. I think because he's CEO now. I think it was the chairman because I think he was both CEO and chairman, and I think he lost the chairman part of it.
Why isn't it illegal for him to say it's illegal for him to then say, oh, I'm selling my share at 420, but then it's not illegal for him to say, oh, Gamestop or whatever.
Well, stomp. Actually, when looking up all this, there is a lot of rumors now that the SEC and market regulators are looking into it now. So it's a bit crap because it does look like something else might be coming his way in terms of a fine.
Because he could buy loads of shares in this and then just tweet it and just know that every tweet he does, it just raises the price.
Well, yeah, and that's have you seen recently Tesla brought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin?
I did.
And that's skyrocketed the price up to a new all-time high. I think it's like $47,000 now for one. And now everyone's looking at that, thinking a bit, what's going on here?
Yeah, it's just because if they invest that much money, surely they could buy the Bitcoin. They know that the price is then going to fly up because they've just shown all this confidence in Bitcoin, and then they could just sell it straight away and just make a massive.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of like market manipulation 101, buying something in massive bulk, expecting the price to rise. Because I think as well, Elon's been tweeting out and saying a lot in the press over the last couple of months about how much he likes Bitcoin and the platform. I'm pretty sure he tweeted out in the last week, a week before he bought all this Bitcoin, like, oh, Bitcoin's the future. It's going to be a standard transaction currency. So he's almost like hedging it already to like make it acceptable to them buy it. And then it'll be interesting to see if he does sell it, because I mean, from Tesla's point of view, in their announcement of the Bitcoin purchase, they've bought it because they are saying that you can now buy Teslas with Bitcoin. Like, that's an accepted transaction for them. So I guess they have to have a certain amount for like paying differences back and stuff. I don't know really.
There's also that tweet from Elon Musk before on the it was the messaging app. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I've not seen this.
It was like, because WhatsApp, they're owned by Facebook, and Facebook were then going to share your information from WhatsApp, and people were like kicking off because how privacy and all that's a massive thing at the moment. So Elon Musk was like tweeted the name of the app. I can't remember what it was called.
Okay.
But it
got kind of like a Gamestop thing again. Yeah,
he just tweeted the name of a different app. And from that, it got about a few 100,000 downloads straight away.
See, this
is
the
mental
thing,
how he can affect so much.
As you were saying with like the Robinhood traders and like this new platforms and everything becomes so much more connected, like this has to be market manipulation essentially. But then anyone who says anything with a big enough platform could be classed as market manipulation, when really they're just saying like, oh, I don't like that app or something. I don't know. Like, they're just expressing an opinion. But there's this weird sort of loyalty following where people read this and then they'll act upon it, and it actually does affect real life things. It's a strange time, but
then can you stop just because they're rich? Can you stop them from tweeting and stuff like that? I don't know.
But I don't really understand Bitcoin at all. Like, I think that'd be a good one to go into on another episode at some point.
I've shotgun that.
Yeah, okay. No, cool. Loads of people talk about it, but I mean, I don't know how many people actually know what it is and how it works and stuff, apart from let's buy it when it's in a dip and let's sell it when it's at a high. Like,
future episode, guys.
There you go, listeners. Get ready for that. Strap in.
You've heard it first.
Anyway, I feel like we've chatted so much crap this week. I don't think we have actually time to go into more lost civilization stuff. So
yeah, I'm sure the viewers would have loved it and not tuned out at half an hour like last week. So yeah,
you can't put that out, man.
This is the whole fucking thing.
You can't put that out there, man.
I'm joking. But yeah, I think we've gone on long enough.
Yeah, let's just wrap this one up, and hopefully there'll be an episode 3. See if me and Toby remain friends that long.
Probably not. Bye-bye.